You are not oppressed because you're disliked. You are not oppressed because you are not centered. If you go into all black spaces, and let's be very clear on why those black spaces exist, that's because you excluded black people from any and all things, right? So we had to create our own spaces. I want you to understand, saying that racism doesn't exist and when somebody dislikes you or is weary or aware of who you are because you are an African American does not equate to racism, right? The word would probably be prejudice. And I'm going to go out on a limb and let you know that black people are not prejudiced either. In my opinion, black people are aware and weary. We know what you have done to our people, what you will do to our people, and what you are capable of doing to our people because you are a napkin American. Okay? And so that is the difference. You would like to come into a space that is not your space. We don't have black only signs. We have created environments for us to exist peacefully without y'all, and you still want to infiltrate that. Okay, so you come into this space and you expect motherfuckers to be putting flowers around your fucking neck like we're in Hawaii and say aloha and say, hey, it's a great whiterson here. And when people do not have open arms for you in their space because they are weary and aware of who and what you are capable of, have done, and could possibly do, you feel like you are oppressed. It's racism because people are paying attention. That is not oppression. Being disliked is not oppression, and it goes back to who you are and what you are as a people. If you are not centered, you feel like people are against you. I promise you, you don't want a day of oppression, and that is why you fight so hard with violence, bigotry, and hatred, because your biggest fear is that black people would do what you have done unto us, unto you. That guilty conscience you have is fueling your hatred and bigotry, and it is not our responsibility to bear. Leave us the fuck alone. Good day.
One thing is certain, lies may go for a long time. Deception that was concocted may go on for a long time. But when the truth will catch up with it, it does not take forever. It does not take within a twinkling of an eye. It takes over the lies narrative that has been told, that are all based on lie. And that is exactly what is happening. When you see white folks coming out to say what their people has been doing, and they try to call it another name, and that's exactly the story I'm bringing you today, because I've put together a couple of videos whereby ladies are beginning to speak out about the difference between when you are speaking against the people of color versus when they just try to avoid your space or say this is where you belong and they give you space. They are two different things that you can't compare it. I mean, these guys have experienced a lot of background clash, foundational clash, forefathers and all of that. So you can't compare what they will say against you versus what they have experienced, their forefathers, their fathers have experienced. And these are the statements that these white folks are making, and they are trying to make explanation and clarity that they are not the same thing. Let's go listen to them so you can get exactly what they are saying without me just saying much. Let's go check it out. Credits are given to the content of this video. Don't go nowhere because I'll be right back.
So let's revisit the conversation on reverse racism, because some of you don't get it. Succinctly, reverse racism doesn't exist. You can't be racist to white people. That being said, white people can experience racial prejudice, which is discrimination based on the color of your skin. Somewhere down the line, the words prejudice and bigotry became muddled up with the word racism, when actually they're not synonyms for the term. Racism is a lot deeper than that. It doesn't just exist on an interpersonal level and shouldn't be mistaken with the occasional mistreatment of white people compared to the institutionalized oppression of people of color. If a white person experiences racial prejudice, that will impact them on a personal level, which, by the way, is never okay. However, it doesn't have the authority to interfere with their economic, social, or political privilege. But the same cannot be said the other way around. Some of you might be thinking this is so trivial, however the distinction is very important. You can't equate the mistreatment by those at the bottom of the hierarchy with the oppression that comes from those at the top. It ignores privilege.
Maybe because I'm mentally unstable, this is actually one of my favorite topics to debate. A few months ago I made a video on reverse racism and how it's not actually real, especially in our society built on white supremacy. But people like that guy love the idea of experiencing racism. Phyllis, she just got something out of the trash. So let me help break it down. In the US, we are a society built on white supremacy. A lot of people look at the definition of racism and they say it's simply prejudice against somebody based on their race. But actually, there's a little more to it. You need to actually have a belief that you are superior or they are inferior based on their race or your race. So if a white person says, I just don't like black people, they think black people are inferior to them. And our society confirms that for them. If a black person says, I don't like white people, there's no system in place in our society where they can use that in any powerful way. So again, to this guy, reverse racism is not a thing. And you as a white man will not experience racism in America because we are a society built on white supremacy, where no matter what class you are in, as long as you are white, you have the upper hand. Thank you.
I'm not sure who needs to hear this today, but reverse racism is not real. I know that makes you feel uncomfortable. I get it. It used to make me uncomfortable too. But I am asking you kindly to sit with me for just a minute and let me explain why reverse racism is not actually a thing. This was a tough thing for me to learn many years ago when I started this process of deconstructing all of these things that I realized I had up here in my old noggin and here in my chest. We tend to use racism and prejudice interchangeably. We use both words to basically talk about the same thing, but there's a difference between the two words. Racism and prejudice are not equal. They're not the same thing. You see, anyone can be prejudiced. Prejudice is the harboring of negative feelings or thoughts, often stereotypical and unwarranted and unfair, towards another group. This can be another group racially and ethnically. It could be another group in terms of socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, the way that somebody identifies, even religion, immigration status, on and on and on. Racism is specifically about race, but racism is systemic. You see, racism requires the power of society behind it. Now, when we talk about the United States of America and our history, a history that involves colonization, the fact of the matter is social power has always been on the side of white Europeans or people from a European lineage. You see, because it was white European descent individuals who had the power, they were also the people who created the systems that are still. What systems are we talking about? Honestly, all of them. All forms of government, both federal and local. Institutions such as prisons. Institutions like schools, universities. Also institutions such as places of worship, with Christianity being the dominant religion in the United States. Also when it comes to social hierarchies, real estate, access to land and to homes, financial institutions. All of these were established upon the white Eurocentric framework. Because of this history, it means that all of the institutions within our nation are driven and built within and function because of that specific white Eurocentric paradigm. So what does all this mean? Well, basically, white people are the majority in our country, not only numerically, but also in terms of social power and the amount of social power that we wield. Now, obviously, there's stratification within white people themselves because those of a lower socioeconomic bracket are not going to have as much power to wield as someone from a higher socioeconomic bracket. Men, historically speaking, have higher power to wield than women, but white people are at the top when it comes to social power because of the way our country was established and all of our systems were created. This means when white people exhibit prejudice, they have systemic and institutional power behind that prejudice. And that creates racist behavior. That creates racist paradigms. That creates systemic racism. You see, because when we wield our prejudices, there's a lot of power behind that. Because we basically have the backing of the society within which we live and function. Whereas when a person of color does have or exhibit any types of prejudices, it doesn't have the same type of institutional power behind it because of the history of our nation. So, fellow white people, I'm asking you, because I know this is not a comfortable conversation, the next time somebody calls you or something that a white person does out for being racist, I ask you to really, rather than immediately resort to argument about why it's not racist and justification for what was done, maybe sit with that for a minute. sit with it and understand that racist actions are not always purposeful. You don't have to be trying to be racist to be racist. In fact, it's actually quite easy to participate in behaviors that are racist without having any idea that you have. So when a person of color calls us out on that and says, hey, hold up, or maybe even another white person says, you know what, I've learned that this is problematic. Rather than immediately wanting to defend ourselves, we need to understand that there's some validity there, right? This is something that perhaps we need to sit with a bit and do some work on. It's really easy to point fingers and cast blame somewhere else and say, yes, but they're racist too. But the thing is, like we've explained, people of color here in the United States, given our social framework, are not racist. They can be prejudiced, but it does not wield the same ramifications as prejudice and therefore racist behavior on our part. I am not an expert on these things by any means, but I am learning a lot. And I wanted to share that because I've been seeing a lot in comment sections lately about reverse racism. And it's kind of a pet peeve of mine because of what I've learned about it. So I'm just asking you, even if you disagree with me, to take into your thought bubble these words, do some pondering on it, and maybe do a little research, learn something. Because I promise you, if you're willing to just try to learn, you're going to be better for it. At least I think so. Anyways, I hope you have a beautiful evening. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Leave them alone. That's what they are saying. Leave them alone. And of course, you what the lady that said, man, just leave us alone. We've been through a lot already. We've gone through what you can't even imagine that she could experience or think of. And guess what? The world is becoming a global village. The world is beginning to see, especially the people from the palm-colored people, the generations, the Gen Zs, the younger generations, they can read. They can see stuff online. They know the real narrative that happened and from what narrative was given. They know the lies that were told. And they are beginning to speak even for all the race, for the black, brown people, and they are saying that, hey, don't mix the truth with lies. We can tell. And sometimes you wonder, how do they get to know? Because they are very young. They get to know by reading. They get to know by seeing and knowing the fact. They also know the way some of their parents brought them up, and some of them chose not to go the route of their parent because they knew quite all right. Haven't gotten exposure to some of the things they did to the other people. They chose to go the other route because they know the gimmicks. Oh, come on. They are the children of the gimmicks players. So they know that they are trying to turn the narratives and give it a name and say reverse this, reverse psychology, reverse that, reverse. You know the word, right? I don't want to mention it because it is obvious. You watch the video, you see exactly what I'm talking about. And this is what people are saying. The white folks are beginning to speak up and stand up, especially the younger generation, because they can see some of them are even intertwined with all those other colors, and they can see for sure what their parents, the mindset they have towards those people, and they are standing up to say, leave these people alone. What you are doing, we know it, and that's what it is. Don't give it any word, don't call it any reverse, whatever. This is what it is, that's what it is. So you know it, we know it, and they are saying people like them should begin to speak against it whenever they see one of them behaving in such a manner. And of course, this is what I call the truth catching up with the lie that has been told for decades. No matter what, truth will prevail. And of course, a lot of white folks will be angry at these ladies because they are speaking the truth to power. They're speaking, hey, don't misjudge it. Don't misinterpret it. It is what it is. Guys, what do you think about this story? Let me know your views and your perception at the comment section. Let's talk about this because I know the truth is going to catch up with lie no matter what, and it has begun to happen. Thank you guys for watching. I want to say thank you to all my old subscribers for being there, and of course my new subscribers that are going to join today. Thank you for always clicking, commenting, and sharing our stories. I'm very grateful. Thank you all. Until I come your way again, stay in peace, stay in love. Bye-bye.